All right. So the if statement, right? So our first thing we're going to be talking about is the if statement. And the entire lesson today is going to be about blocks of code. So a block of code, right? Okay, so it's going to be exactly what it sounds like, right? So a block of code is basically just a bunch of lines of code that form a block, and they work together. Now, yeah, so this is basically what a block of code is, right? Examples of blocks of code are if statements, loops kind of count as blocks of code, and functions count as blocks of code, although we're not talking about loops, right? So before we discuss the if statement, right, we need to go back to variables. So on Tuesday, we were talking about numbers and strings, right? So we have integers, we have floats, and we have strings. Those are the main data types that we have. We have another one that I didn't talk about, and it's called a Boolean, right? And Booleans are named after the guy who made Boolean math. Although you don't really need to know that. So basically, Booleans are just a true or a false. So those are the only two values of Booleans. You can't have anything else. So to create a Boolean, we have we put our variable name, right, just like any other variable, and then we have the equal sign so we can set its value, and we can either say true or we can say false. That's those are the only values, true or false. And Booleans are really important, particularly in if statements. Okay, so before we move on to how the if statements work, any questions on Booleans or blocks of code? Do we have to make a new file? Yeah, I would go ahead and make a new file so that we can put some new code, right? Yeah, so yeah, everybody go ahead and make a new file. Okay. So now let's look at the if statement. So this would be like a real life example. So right here, right? So for example, if I'm tired, then I'll stay in bed, right? And if I'm hungry, I'll eat some toast. Otherwise, I'll skip breakfast. So if I'm not hungry, then I'll skip breakfast. And if it's raining, then I'll bring an umbrella. And if it's sunny, then I'll bring shades. Otherwise, I'll just wear my casual clothes. Right, so we can see that like in real life, there's something that we want to check to see, right? So the thing here we want to check is if I'm tired. Here we want to check if I'm hungry. Here if we want to check if it's raining or if it's sunny or something else. Right. So in coding, right? So the if statement will check a condition, and if the condition is true, we're going to do what the statement says. So for example, if I am tired is true, so if I am actually tired, then I'll stay in bed. But if I'm not tired, then I'm going to ignore this and I'm not going to stay in bed. If I am hungry, then I'll eat toast. But if I'm not hungry, then I'm going to skip breakfast, right? And if it's raining, then I'll bring an umbrella. But if it's sunny, then I'll bring my shades. And if it's not either of those, then I'm going to wear my casual clothes. And I realized that I made a typo right here. Okay, guys. So that would be how real life if statements would work, right? It's basically just decision making. So you have some kind of condition, and then you want to do something based off of that condition, right? So that's real life. But in coding, so this is kind of how you would write it, right? So first we have if. We would write if, and then we would write the condition. So whenever something is indented in the block of code, that means it's part of it. So basically we have if the condition and then a colon. The colon's really important because I said a little bit earlier, when you have the colon, it means that it will automatically indent because when you have a colon, you're signifying that you have like a block of code. And then so basically what you put in the if statement is whatever you want to happen if the condition is true. So for example, let's make some if statements here, right? So if let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and uncomment this. So yeah. So let's look at this, right? You don't have to write this. So let's say we have our Booleans is tired, right? So if I'm tired, so let's say I am tired, so that's true. And let's have is hungry, so I'm not hungry, so it's false. And then right now the weather is sunny. And notice that this is not a Boolean, this is a string. Weather is a string. So we can't just say like we can't just check if the weather is something, right? Because this is a string. So we're gonna get to that in a sec, right? Now, the way you can do this, right, is first you put the if, right? Then you put your condition. So in this case, my condition is just a Boolean, right? So if I am tired, basically, right? In this case, it's just a Boolean. So then what I have is if I am tired, then I will print I will stay in bed. And in here, let's see, do we have a question? Do we write this? No, not this. Although if you can, and if you're a pretty fast typer, if you want to, and you're a pretty fast typer, then you can type this. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. But this is basically just like the introduction to dip your feet in the water and kind of like that kind of thing. You just joined. So what we're doing is we're talking about blocks of code. So right now we're talking about if statements.
Okay. So do I have to do the same thing, like go to like file and
Yeah,
download it?
make a new file, and yeah, you don't have to type anything right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So again, if is hungry is true, right? Then I will print I will eat toast. If it's not true, so this is the else statement, right? Now how this works is like in the first part here, if is tired, that only checks if I am tired. If I am tired, then it's going to print this. If I'm not tired, it's not going to do anything. It's going to completely skip over this, right? And then however, in this case, we have an else statement. So what this does is it checks if I'm hungry. If I am hungry, it's going to print this. If I'm not hungry, so if anything, if is hungry is so basically if this does not if this doesn't run, then this will run. So it's else, right? So if I am hungry, I will eat some toast. Else, I will skip breakfast, right? So basically, it's the else statement is basically it's going to run if your previous statement is not true. Now in this last one, so everybody look at my last one about the weather. Here, instead of putting a Boolean, we have a string, and then we have this double equals, and then we have another string. Now what this double equals is, it's not the single equal. Do not confuse the double equals with the single equal sign, because the double equal sign, basically what it is it's checking to see if two things are equal. The single equal sign is what we use when we're trying to set a value to a variable. So for example, up here, we use a single equal sign. Down here, for this, we're checking to see if weather is raining. And if they are, then this will be true. If they're not the same, then it's going to be false, right? So if it is if the weather is raining, then I will print I'm going to bring an umbrella, right? And now we have this elif, and that's basically that stands for else if. So it's the same thing as the else, except instead of just blindly running whatever this is, if this isn't true, this time, basically it's part of this if statement. So if the if statement is not does not run, then we're going to go to the elif, right? And the elif is basically else if again. Now what that means is that it's like the else statement, but we still have to put a condition. So the else statement, right? It basically just means it's like our fallback plan. If that's not true, then this will happen. But here we have elif, right? So it's not necessarily going to catch you no matter what. So all right, so okay, let me try to reword this because I know that probably sounded really confusing. So we have our if statement, right? We're checking the condition in the if statement. If that condition is false, then this code is not going to run. All right, so that code's not going to run. Then we move on to this, right? This has the else. It stands for else if, right? So it has an else. It has an else in it, right? So that means that if this doesn't run, then we're going to check this as a backup. And then if this is true, then this will run. However, so because it has an if, we have to put a condition. So if that condition is true, we'll run this code. So I will bring shades. If that condition is not true, then this will not run. So basically, it's just another if statement, and the elif can just put two if statements together. So first check if this is true. If it's not, then we're moving on to this. And if this isn't true, then we're just going to have this as our backup, right? Okay, so I went through that really quickly. I know that. So do you all have any questions?
Can you repeat what elif means?
So elif stands for else if, right? Basically what it does is it's the same as so it begins with else, and else is basically our fallback plan. So if if the if statement doesn't run, then this is our fallback. So we're going to see if this happens. However, it's not exactly an else because it also has the if. So you also have to check a condition. So basically, what it's useful for is you check the initial condition, and then if that initial condition is false, then can we name this file Boolean? I wouldn't do that because again, you might end up with the some kind of error. I would name it let's say if statement, right? Go ahead and name it if statement. Okay, but basically we have the if statement, right? That checks something. If that doesn't run, we're going to the elif statement. The elif statement also checks something. And if that doesn't run, then we're going to the else statement. The else statement doesn't check anything. It's if the previous stuff didn't run,
I
then
have a
it's going straight to
question.
it. Yes.
What should be the size of the file?
What do you mean the size of the file?
I mean, like, whenever I go to the file, it's asking like to put like some size of it or something.
No, all you click is new file right here. It shouldn't ask for a size of a file or anything.
How do you what do we do with it?
With what?
What's the
The if
use?
statement?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the if statement is extremely powerful. So it's for anything that you want to check, right? When you want to check something, if it's also basically giving the computer a set of options, right? So option number one, if this is true, this is what it's going to do. Option number two, so like option number two, it's going to be this, and option number three is going to be this, right? So basically, and a use for it would be something like if we wanted to check let's see, what would be a better use? So on Friday, I want to make it like an a more interactive lesson. So we're gonna be I'm gonna write with you a some code for a number guessing game, and in that guessing game, it's gonna loop through, right? We don't need to worry about the loop right now, but basically, it's gonna constantly check if what you guess is the same as the same as the random number that's generated. So that's an example of how you would use an if statement. So like if if user input equals like random number generated, then print like you win or something like that, right? So that's what would happen there. Okay, so I'm gonna go.
I have another
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
So I only get the first part instead of the second part where you use the double equal sign.
Okay, so what the double equal sign is, instead of the single equal sign, what do we write in the new file? Don't write anything right now.
What do we write in the file? I'm sorry, I asked the same question.
Don't write anything right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it asked me, like, whenever I open the new thing, it asked me like, what should I write?
No, when you open a new file, you just click file, new file, right? And then in this basically you type whatever you want, and right now we don't type anything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the difference between a single equal sign versus a double equal sign is that a single equal sign is that's how you set values. So like my Boolean equals true. That would be you're setting the value of my Boolean to be true. Now what the double equal sign is, basically what it means is it's checking to see if two things are the same. So you notice, so I commented it out, but here I said that the weather is sunny, right? Now here I'm checking to see if weather is the same as raining. So if they have the same value, right? So that's not true, right? Because it's sunny. Now we're going to the else if statement, and we're going to see if weather is the same as sunny. And in this case, it would be. So it will print this, and it would ignore this. Now, so the
Okay. So if we put if weather double equal raining, will it put false?
Yeah. So weather double equals raining. Actually, what I can do here is I'll go to the end of this file, right? If you so for example, if we created a variable called weather, right, and called it or gave it the value sunny, right, and then we went down here and we asked it to print. So if this was like this, what it would do is, so first of all, the weather, we said the weather is sunny, right? And in here, so we're telling it to print something, right? And it's going to check what we want it to print. So what we wanted to print is going to be to check whether it's so if weather is the same as raining, and if we ran this, it would output false, right? Yeah, so it would output false because weather is not raining. So when it prints it, it's going to print false. I hope that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so do we have any more questions on anything I just said? Because I know I went through that really fast.
No question.
Okay, y'all understand this? No,
Yeah.
as in you don't understand it, or no questions?
No question.
Okay. All right, so let's go down. Okay, so where was it here, right? Okay, so yeah, notice the double equal sign, right? So that means that it's what I'm going to call an operator, a Boolean operator, right? So basically, it's going to turn what we give it into a Boolean. So this checks to see if both things on either side is the same, right? And if they are, then if the two things are the same, then the overall condition is going to be true. And if it's not the same, then the condition will be false. And Boolean operator is what I'm calling it. I don't actually remember if that's actually what it's called. Yeah, all right. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. Okay. So other what I'm calling Boolean operators is so greater, less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. So what these do, right? It should be fairly obvious, but like so you give it like two numbers, and you the thing is going to check whether this number is greater than this number or this number is less than this number. And so for example, if you wrote if, so like for example, if you wrote here, if 80 is less than 100, then what it would do is right, so that's true, right? So it would run the code. But if you put if 80 is like it would also be true if you put if 80 is less than or equal to 100, right? Because that 80 is less than or equal to 100. If you put 80 greater than or equal to, that's going to be that's going to output false, because that's going to put this is going to be false because it's not greater than or equal to 100, right? So that should be fairly simple, right? The other thing is that we can put anything into an if statement as long as the final result of that is going to be a Boolean, right? So you could put like numbers into the if statement, but you would have to use like greater than or something like that to turn that entire thing into some kind of condition. And that means we can also do something like if true, right? Because that's still a condition. That's still a Boolean, Boolean value, right? But that's not very useful. Can anybody guess why if I just put if true or if false is not very useful?
Because you didn't put what it should do.
Okay, well, let's
What
say
to
I tell it to print like hi. Now, why is this not very, oh, now why is the if statement here not very useful?
Because you didn't put in the if after the colon after the true you didn't put hi, probably.
No, that's not exactly why it's not useful here. Okay, so the reason why it's not very useful is because if I just put it's true, that value can't be changed unless I hard code it, right? So like if I actually go into the code and change it, I can't change it with anything else other than that. So no matter no matter what I put like the code above it or whatever, that's always going to print hi no matter what. So I might as well just not put this and just write print hi, right? And again, if it was if false, then that code would never run. So there's no point in writing it at all, right? Now, if you put a if variable, then that could be useful because you can actually change the value of the variable in the code. All right, guys. So any questions so far? Okay, so no questions. All right. There are some other things we can do with Booleans, right? Okay, so the other things we can do with Booleans is we can say something like, so if let's say 80 is less than 100, so if we want to check if 80 is less than 100, and okay, maybe it'll be better with if I make some variables. So let's say number A is 100, number B is 80 or 90, let's say, and number C is 80. Now let's see, let's say I want to check multiple things at once. So let's say I want to check if so let's say if I want to check if A is less, or if A is greater than B and B is greater than C, then I want to run some code. So like then I want to let's say print that A is greater than B greater than C. Now the way I can do that is that is I can, so one way I could do that is I could do if A greater than B, and then colon. And inside of that, I could check if B is greater than C. So basically what we're doing here is first we check if A is greater than B. If it is, then we're going to proceed to the next check. If it's not, then we're not going to bother at all. All right. And then what I can do here is if B is greater than C, right? So we're checking if B is also greater than C. And then if it is, then we'll print we'll print like A greater than B, greater than C, right? However, that's not very efficient because you have to go and like you indent twice, and you literally just have like stacked if statements and stuff. That's not a very good method for doing this, although it works. A better way to do this is we can use something called AND. So let's say A greater than B and B greater than C. Now what this does is, let's see, chat message here. Are we writing? No, not yet. I'll have you write something later. Okay. Yeah, okay. So if A is greater than B, right? And this checks if A is greater than B and if B is greater than C, right? So what this does is AND is a way we can check two different Booleans, and the final output for this entire thing, this is going to come out as a Boolean. The output for that is only going to be true if both are true. That's how AND works. So actually, if so for example, if one of them is so if both are true, then it's going to output this Boolean is going to be true. If one of them is true and one of them is false, then it's still going to be false. And if both are false, it's going to be false. So they both have to be true. The other thing we can check is OR. So if A is greater than B or if B is greater than C. This outputs true as long as one of them is true. And the reason for this is so let's say you have two Booleans, right? So one is one checks if you have a banana, right? And the other one is if you have an orange. It's a really silly example, I know that, but bear with me, right? So if we say if you have a banana or if you have an orange, then we're going to do something, right? So let's say you don't have either, right? So that means you don't have a banana or you don't have an orange, or so that means that it's going to be false, and we're not going to do what that it does. Can I repeat the past few things? Yeah, so if we put AND in here, so basically we can combine two Booleans by saying AND. So what AND does is, are we doing Python 3.8? Yeah, that's what we're using, Python 3.8. So basically what AND does is it checks to see if both are true. If both are true, then it's going to output true. If only one is true, it's going to output false. And if both are false, it's going to output false. So basically both things have to be true for it to output true. Now what OR does is OR checks to see if if at least one is true. So if you don't have an orange and you don't have a banana, then and we're checking to see if you have an orange or if you have a banana, then it's going to output false. If you have an orange but no banana, you still meet one of the conditions. So one of them is going to be true. So the entire thing is going to be true. And also, if you have both an orange and a banana, then both are true and it's still going to output true. So any questions on AND and OR?
No.
Okay. So the other thing we can do is use not. What not does is, so like there's actually two ways I think to write it in Python. One is like this, right? Like that. So let's see if yeah, so not, you can put whatever condition you have in parentheses, right? So this will reverse what it is. So if what it's inside of this is false, then it'll put true. If it's true, then it's going to put false. No, don't write this right now. Yeah, you'll get a break shortly. So what not does is not checks to see if it basically just reverses the condition. So if you put in true, then it's going to say false. And the other way to write not, I think, now I'm not too familiar with it, but I think you can do just an exclamation point so we can test if that works. So let's say it's going to print something random, right? So let's see, it shouldn't print anything. Okay, yeah, never mind. So that's not how you use not. There is a way to use not, but that's not the way. Although using the word not is sufficient in most cases, I think. Okay, so are there any questions on what we just said, and or not?
No.
You guys have no questions. Let's see.
I have no questions, but
Yeah,
like,
okay.
are we gonna start like printing those letters?
Yeah, we're gonna do some. I'm gonna have you guys actually like write stuff soon. Okay, so what I want you guys to do now, before we have our break, it's a short little exercise that for you guys. All right. So in your program, what I want you to do is create a variable called age and set it to your age, and make it an integer. So like if you're like 10, then you would put 10. If you were 1, then you would put 1. It's you're probably not 1, but that's just what I want you to do. Now make an if statement by saying if, right? Now your condition, what I want you to do is I want you to check if your age is younger than 50 by using less than. So if you age less than 50, so you would write age less than, if your age is less than 50, then you would put the colon and you go on the next line. Now remember, when you put the colon, it automatically indents your next line. So don't change your indent. Don't hit backspace. Don't put another indent. Just continue writing. So I want you to tell the computer to print that you are younger than 50 if that happens. And then after that, go out of your if statement by hitting backspace so that it's not indented anymore. And then you make an else statement. So the else statement, I want you to say you are not younger than 50. Right. And then if you need help, then so we're going to go over this after. And also, if you need help, then you can ask in chat. And you can raise your hand in Zoom once you're finished. Can I make an example? This is kind of an exercise that I want you guys to do. So first, try it on your own. And if yours completely fails for any reason, then just delete your previous code, because just delete your previous code, and then we're going to go over this after. And then you can just copy what I have.
Wait, so sorry, but what example are we gonna do?
What do you mean, what example?
I thought we were gonna write something, right?
Yeah, we're writing right here. So this is what I want you to write right here. So yeah, make an age variable, set it to your age, then check, use an if statement, check if you're younger than 50 by using less than. And then
Okay.
have it print that you are younger than 50. And then make an else statement on another line, and then say that make it print you're not younger than 50. Are we doing this after the break? No, go ahead and do it right now. You'll still get your break. It'll just be a little bit later.
Was it 50 or 15?
50.
Okay.
I got invalid syntax.
If you get invalid syntax, what that means is again you
Yeah, I
misspelled
got
something.
something wrong.
Yeah, I got invalid in syntax.
Yeah, okay. So invalid syntax is you gotta make sure you check your spelling. The other thing is that you're gonna want to, let's see, you want to check your spelling. That's the number one thing, because misspelled variables are always a problem. But the other thing you want to
Well,
check
the red line
is,
came
I got
in.
Tracebug most recent call last.
all right, guys. So it looks like you guys need help. And I know I didn't really give you any very much example
Yeah, I need some help
before
on it.
this. So yeah, we'll go through this together. All right, interact. I'm gonna walk you through this.
Whatever I'm like writing right now, it's just saying like sign text, something like that.
Yeah, that's syntax. What
Yeah,
that means
syntax.
is, so syntax is the way you write it, your code. So like if you misspell something, then it's gonna say that you have a syntax error, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll walk
just
you guys through this. All right. So type what I'm typing. So delete your stuff if it gave you a really an error. Otherwise, you don't have to delete it. You can just comment it out. But so now I'm gonna walk you guys through. All right.
how do you delete it first?
You can just use the backspace button,
Oh,
or you can highlight everything and press backspace or delete. Okay, so
it won't let me do that. Like I'm trying to do it, but
if
it's
you're
not letting me.
if you tried to run it and then it said you have a syntax error, like in another dialog, you have to close out of that dialog
Yeah.
first. Okay. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is first make your age variable. So age, so my age is, let's just say I'm 20, but I'm not 20, but let's say that. All right. You can put any number in your age, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now, once everybody's done that, let's go ahead and make an if statement. So if, all right. And now our condition, what we want to check is that if you're younger than 50, so that means if your age is less than 50. So the way to do that is if we can do age less than 50, right? So we're comparing two numbers, and that's going to give us a Boolean, so that works in our if statement. All right, so after we put a condition, whatever it is, we put a colon, right? That's the other part of the if statement. And now when you hit enter, you can see it automatically indents your next line. So don't do anything to the indent. Don't press backspace and don't put another indent. Just start typing print, and then we'll say you are younger than 50. Now to recap this, we see so we have our age.
For me, it says like built in like in print or something. I don't know.
You might want to make a new file just because I don't actually know what that error means. So you might have if you didn't delete everything.
I will check the message again, but it says built-in function print.
Yeah, built-in function print.
Yeah.
Did you like put
Mine
some?
worked.
Yeah, so if you didn't put
Mine works now.
so if you don't put something that's like the computer can actually print, then you might it's gonna have an error. The other thing is it might not be an error message at all. It could be just you didn't. If it's like a pop-out message that's like in yellow, that has like a yellow box, then that's not an error message.
No,
That's,
it doesn't have like a yellow box. It's
is it
just
in red
like
text?
sending. No, it's nothing like in red text. It's just sending me like normal message.
Yeah, no. So don't worry about it. Just keep typing in your thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So after this, right? You notice if I when I hit enter, it's still indented. And I said I wanted to make an else statement. What you got to do now is press backspace to get rid of the indent. So now we're outside of our if statement. And then we can put the else statement, and then we put a colon. And so, right, if age is not less than 50, then we're going to do whatever the else statement tells us to do. So here, the else statement will be, we're going to tell it to print you are not younger than 50. Right? So go ahead and type this. And then after you type it, you can go ahead and run it, and it should work. So if you put your age as something lower than 50, then it will print you are younger than 50. If you change your age to something like a ridiculously large number, then it's going to say you are not younger than 50. And notice our check here was if it was less than 50. If I put an equal sign, it would be if you are less than or equal to 50. So even if you were 50 years old, it would say you were younger than 50, which is not right. So yeah, you gotta make sure that you put the you have to make sure you use the correct check.
It still gave me like some syntax error again. I don't know why.
All right. We get to that in a second. Did everybody else get theirs to work before we get to that? Before I get to that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, mine worked.
Okay. For you guys that
Yes.
yeah, so for you guys that that it worked, you can go ahead and yeah, you can go ahead and have your break. Yeah. And then for everybody else who needs help troubleshooting, we're gonna do this. We can do that real quick right here.
Yeah, I need like really help.
All right. So we're gonna get to that right now.